There is a question that visits every person at some point in their life. It does not arrive loudly. It does not announce itself. It comes quietly, usually in the stillness of a late night or an early morning, when the noise of the world has finally gone silent long enough for you to hear your own thoughts. And the question is simply this: what if I am capable of so much more than the life I am living right now? That question is dangerous. Not because it causes pain, because if you answer it honestly, truly, completely honestly, your entire life has to change. Most people are not defeated by failure. Think about that carefully. Most people are defeated by something far more subtle. They are defeated by comfort. They make peace with small dreams. They accept average effort as their standard. They build a collection of excuses that sound completely reasonable on the surface. And day after day, year after year, they quietly lower the ceiling of their own life until the dreams that once made their heart race feel like someone else's story. When you were a child, nobody taught you how to dream big. You did it naturally, without evidence, without permission, without waiting for someone to confirm it was realistic. You believed in things you had never seen. You imagined things that had never existed. You lived as though the future was wide open, because it was. Then somewhere along the way, someone introduced you to the word realistic. Someone laughed at the wrong moment. Someone reminded you of your weaknesses more times than your strengths. Someone compared you to another person, and you came up short. And little by little, without you even noticing, the giant inside you became quiet. But here is what most people never understand. The dream did not disappear. It went to sleep. And perhaps today, right now, in this moment, is the day it finally wakes up again. If this kind of conversation matters to you, subscribe to this channel right now and turn on notifications. Every video here exists for one reason: to remind you that the life you imagined is not as far from you as it feels. I want you to picture yourself standing at the base of a mountain, not because you have already begun climbing, because you are looking up at it for the first time. The distance looks impossible from down here. The wind is cold. The path looks uncertain. And that is exactly where most people turn around. Not because they tried and failed, because they decided it was impossible before they took a single step. The greatest tragedy in life is not losing. The greatest tragedy is never discovering what was possible, because fear convinced you to stay exactly where you were. Every extraordinary achievement in human history was built by someone who looked completely ordinary at the beginning. Someone who doubted themselves privately. Someone who failed more times than they could count. Someone who cried in moments nobody ever saw. Someone who wanted to give up and somehow found one more reason not to. Success has never belonged to superhuman people. It has always belonged to ordinary people who kept walking long after everyone else decided to stop. Here is something worth understanding about how success is actually built. The world celebrates victories, but life is constructed in invisible moments. Nobody applauds the student studying at midnight while everyone else is sleeping. Nobody notices the worker learning a new skill after a 10-hour shift. Nobody sees the entrepreneur spending months with no visible results while learning lessons that no classroom could ever teach. Nobody witnesses the silent sacrifices. Nobody sees the fear hidden behind determined eyes. Yet those invisible moments, those quiet, ordinary, unremarkable decisions, are the ones that eventually become extraordinary lives. Success is rarely created in exciting moments. It is created on boring Tuesdays. It is created on mornings when motivation has completely abandoned you. It is created when your alarm rings and every part of your body says, "Stay in bed." That is the precise moment where dreams either grow or disappear forever. People love motivation. Motivation feels wonderful, but motivation is weather. Some days it is sunny. Some days it disappears entirely. And if your future depends entirely on how inspired you feel today, your future will always be unpredictable. Discipline changes everything. Discipline continues moving when motivation has gone home. Discipline remembers tomorrow while emotion only cares about this moment. Discipline is not the absence of feeling. It is the decision that your commitment matters more than your current mood. Let me ask you something worth sitting with. How many dreams have been quietly buried by people who were waiting to feel ready? How many books were never written? How many businesses were never started? How many conversations that could have changed everything never happened? How many opportunities walked past slowly enough to be taken and nobody moved? Because someone kept saying, maybe next month, maybe next year, maybe when things calm down, maybe when I feel more confident. Life rarely becomes easier. You become stronger. That is the only real difference between the person you are today and the person you are capable of becoming. Imagine two people standing in the exact same storm. The rain falls on both of them equally. The wind pushes against both of them with equal force. One person spends their energy complaining about the weather. The other person spends their energy learning how to walk through it. Years later, when the sun has returned, people look at one of them and say how lucky they were. Luck had nothing to do with it. Perspective did. Consistency did. Courage did. Dream big, not because every dream becomes a reality overnight. Dream big because the size of your dream determines the direction of your entire life. A small dream produces small decisions. Small decisions produce small habits. Small habits create ordinary lives. But a big dream, a dream that genuinely excites you and genuinely frightens you at the same time, that dream changes how you wake up in the morning. It changes what you read. It changes your conversations. It changes how you spend your evenings. A real dream begins reshaping your identity long before it ever changes your circumstances. Think about the tallest building you have ever seen. Before a single piece of foundation was laid, before a single worker arrived on site, before any visible progress existed, that building lived inside someone's imagination. Everything you see in the world around you that was built by human hands was once invisible. Every company, every invention, every structure, every movement that changed the direction of history, all of it began as a thought inside an ordinary person's mind. So why do people laugh at dreamers? Because dreamers make comfortable people deeply uncomfortable. Dreamers remind everyone around them of the possibilities they quietly abandoned. Never apologize for believing in something bigger than your current reality. Reality changes. Vision creates reality. Let me tell you about someone I once heard of who worked in a factory. Every morning before sunrise, he was already moving. Every evening, he came home carrying the exhaustion of physical labor in his entire body. His hands showed the work. His bank account barely shifted month to month. The people around him had made a decision, quiet, unspoken, but final. This is simply what life is. We survive. We get through. We do not ask for more than what we have. But every evening, instead of surrendering his remaining hours to distraction, this man spent 1 hour learning, 1 hour reading, 1 hour practicing a skill that nobody around him valued or understood. 1 hour seemed laughably small. The people closest to him said so openly. What difference could 1 hour possibly make? The first month, nothing visible changed. 6 months in, still no obvious difference. A full year passed, still working, still learning, still building something nobody else could see. Most people would have stopped long before this point, because when results are invisible, it is easy to assume nothing is happening. But invisible does not mean nothing is happening. Think about a seed buried in the ground. For weeks after planting, the surface shows nothing, no movement, no sign of life, no evidence that anything was put there at all. Does that mean growth has stopped? No. Growth is happening exactly where impatient eyes cannot reach it. That is precisely how your life works. Every page you read, every promise you keep to yourself, every temptation you resist, every excuse you refuse, every difficult conversation you walk toward instead of away from, roots are growing. And one day, without dramatic announcement, the world suddenly sees a tree. They call it an overnight success. They did not see the years underground. They only ever see the tree. Here is something worth writing down. The world rewards what it notices. Life rewards what nobody notices. Character, integrity, consistency, patience, humility. These qualities never make headlines, but they build lives that hold up under pressure when everything external is being tested. Pain is a strange teacher. Nobody invites it. Nobody enjoys the arrival of it. Yet almost every meaningful lesson life ever taught came carrying pain in its hands. Failure hurts. Rejection hurts. Loneliness hurts. Real sacrifice hurts. But regret carries a different kind of pain entirely. Failure says, "At least I tried." Regret whispers, "Forever. What if?" Imagine arriving at the final chapters of your own life and discovering that your greatest enemy was never lack of talent. It was never lack of money or lack of connection or lack of opportunity. It was the voice inside your own mind that kept convincing you that tomorrow was always the better day to begin. Tomorrow is one of the greatest lies ever quietly sold to human beings. Tomorrow steals more dreams than failure ever could, because failure at least involves trying. Tomorrow feels safe, endless, forgiving. Today is the only address where dreams become actions. Today is the only place where the decision you have been postponing can actually be made. You did not become successful because life suddenly decides to become fair. You become successful because you decide your personal standards will no longer be held hostage by your circumstances. Anyone can work hard when life is cooperating. Anyone can believe when evidence already exists. Anyone can stay committed when results are visible and people are applauding. But the people who genuinely transform their lives, they believe before proof arrives. They work before the applause begins. They persist before the results are visible to anyone. And while everyone around them is waiting for certainty before committing, they are quietly building their future one disciplined decision at a time. There is extraordinary power hidden inside repeated, ordinary actions. One healthy choice changes very little. One missed workout changes very little. One page read feels completely insignificant. One page skipped also feels completely harmless. But life is never shaped by a single day. Life is shaped by thousands of days stacked against each other, one after another, until those small, invisible choices become your identity. And your identity determines what you believe is possible for you. Because whether you recognize it or not, every decision you make is casting a vote for the person you are in the process of becoming. Who are you voting for today? Not with your words, not with your intentions, with your actual behavior. Because your behavior tells a truth that your excuses work very hard to hide. If someone followed your life for 30 days without hearing a single word from you, watched only your actions, your choices, your use of time, what conclusions would they draw? Would they see someone preparing for something greater? Or would they see someone postponing a life they secretly wish they were already living? That question is not meant to create guilt. It is meant to create awareness. Because awareness is always where transformation begins. Here is something I want you to hear every single morning. You are not competing against the most successful person in the world. You are competing against the version of yourself that settled yesterday. Every sunrise delivers the same opportunity, the chance to become someone your past self would barely recognize. The difficulty is that growth asks for a price before it delivers a reward. Most people want confidence before they are willing to act. Life asks for courage first. Most people want certainty before commitment. Life asks for commitment first. Most people want success before sacrifice. Life says the sacrifice comes first, and success decides later whether you have earned it. That is why so many people stop too early. They are digging for something valuable just 1 foot from finding it. They do not know how close they are. So they set the tool down. Someone else arrives, takes one more swing, and suddenly the world says, look how fortunate they were. Fortune had nothing to do with it. One more decision did. I once heard about a man who spent years living inside a story that other people had written for him. As a child, he heard the same sentences repeated so many times that they stopped feeling like opinions and started feeling like facts. You are not the talented one. People like us do not become leaders. Do not aim too high. Imagine carrying those sentences for 2 decades. Imagine hearing that voice every time you considered something new. Imagine genuinely believing your future had already been decided by someone else's limited vision of what you were.